So before I start, I would like to just compliment all of you on this congregation, the size of your congregation and what you are able to accomplish here is so impressive. If you traveled around to other UU churches, you'd know exactly what I'm referring to. But I used to be before PM, pre-ministry. I was not just a teacher, but I also was property manager of commercial real estate. So unfortunately, I'm the person that has that kind of eye that can go, oh, there's going to be a leak there and that needs to be washed. And there's a light switch missing there. Your congregation stands out away from other congregations. UU congregations tend to be a little overly organic, which kind of covers a multitude of sins, right? But it's just so bright in here. The restroom is so bright and cheery. Everything, my mother would love it here. A place for everything and everything in its place. And those are the kinds of things that actually give comfort to each of you and to your visitors, because you walk in and you don't feel like you have to straighten the picture or clear off a table or find the pamphlets, and the pamphlets are scattered around in the coffee hour area and vice versa. So I just want to applaud that. And I do know Reverend G, and you are so fortunate to have such a soulful person as your minister here. So let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, Reverend Leonetta was young. Long time ago. But one of my favorite toys when I was growing up in the 1960s was this do-it-yourself kaleidoscope. Some of you might remember those. It was this long red tube and it had a plastic end that you could take off, and you could put whatever you wanted in there, little tiny objects. So I would put my mother's bobby pin and a little sequin that popped off of one of my stuffed animals and other tiny objects. Sometimes even just a hair from your head you could put in there. And then you would turn it around and line up your eye in the peephole and push it, line it up towards a light. And that changed the perspective of all the things within the kaleidoscope as it went round and round. And it occupied me for quite a while. My Capricorn mother was always happy with that. 35 years ago, when I created my packet to apply for Unitarian Universalist congregations, I called my packet a kaleidoscope of ministry. The point being that after you put all those components of ministry into a clear perspective, there's always going to be changes as the community brings different energy and ideas. Kaleidoscope refers to just that, this mixture of different changing things, especially images, colors, shapes. But today we're going to look at our own spiritual approaches to mindfulness and how that image of the kaleidoscope and the changes and the change in perspectives can apply to you today. Mary Engelbright probably stated this approach most clearly. Life is what you put into it. You might remember that she had a shoebox and it said life. And so whatever you put in, so often it was a heart, you put your heart into life. What do you choose to put into your kaleidoscope of mindfulness? What do you want to see repeated, refracted, reflected in your daily living? What beliefs and practices and rituals are so meaningful to you that you would like your own personal kaleidoscope to show that in different perspectives? Unitarian Universalists sometimes think that they're a Unitarian Universalist and they're standing up. I'm a Unitarian Universalist. And you all know what that is. You're liberal, you're thoughtful, you're very educated, opinionated, and etc. I tend to encourage all of you to add one word to that. You're a practicing Unitarian Universalist. A Buddhist would never say, I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist and I am approaching nirvana and I'm a Buddhist and I'm all finished. No, you're practicing. And so I invite all of you to take this kaleidoscope as a transparency, a metaphor for you to work with, for you personally. I'm going to drive back to Sterling Heights and I'm not going to be checking on all of you to see what goals or what little images you put in your kaleidoscope and what work you're going to be doing. It's for you personally to put to work. So sometimes you all put spiritual codes to work. Some of you use the 7 UU principles. Some of you use the new Article 2. G has let you know about that, right? How many know about Article 2? You know what? There's some congregations back in the Detroit area that don't know about it yet, but they're going to. So our karma or cones, sometimes you use the figurative or the literal or the symbolic stories from the Bible. Some of you use Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements. And so you use different codes. So what code would you put in your kaleidoscope? What would you want to pass down to the next generation? That would be what your code is. You can change the elements in your kaleidoscope. You can add to them the symbolic stories of the Bible. Sometimes for some of you have transposed into different meanings in your life as you grew older and applied life lessons. I am so happy that you're a congregation that can use the G word without needing Benadryl. And so that is so comforting. The beautiful closing piece that you gave us, that was just like it was like a blessing. And how beautifully that it fits into what I'm speaking about, that there's, what do you choose? What do you prioritize to put into your kaleidoscope? You can add affirmations that are positive, because did you know, most of you know, that you have 60,000 thoughts every day, most of you. The women might have 70, and the men might have a little less because they're listening to the women share theirs. But I'm sorry, I think I'm not supposed to do that anymore. It's probably breaking some rule, but I'm driving back to Sterling Heights, so report me to who you must. But out of those 60,000 thoughts, 75% of them are usually negative. And so 95% needed to be repeated. And please, those are the things that get repeated, are the negative. And so you can't really say enough positive things to yourself or to people you see without it going overboard. So how are you mindful when you speak? I can give my age away, not my weight ever. Almost slipped on that one. I'm 72. Now I sometimes pause before I respond. And I think everything that happens here doesn't have to come out here. And sometimes you can actually have a silence and not respond at all. If there's a group of 5 or 6 people, you don't always have to voice your opinion. Sometimes you can just listen. And so I'm giving you too many mixed metaphors here, but I'm only going to be here this one time, so I have to get everything in. So sometimes you can do this or do this. You can even do it behind your back when you're speaking. And that sometimes will slow you down to be more mindful about your response. The other suggestion I have is to have a long, little skinny mouth like a hummingbird and big Dumbo ears. Isn't that a ridiculous image? But that you're listening more than you're speaking. So these are not new ideas, they're just reminders. For some of you in your kaleidoscope, you're going to put in beautiful images of nature and you're going to put in, waves from water or beautiful mountaintops or whatever image pushes you into a place of harmony and peace so that you can come back to the world with responses rather than reactions. Some of you are going to use grounding symbols of hearts. I got brave and got a henna with a heart on it at an Indian festival on Friday. And some of you aren't going to use the kaleidoscope because you're more detailed persons. You're going to use the fisheye. Are you familiar with the fisheye? It's this little toy that you look through and you only have one thing that you're looking at. And that one thing is what gets moved around. That is very helpful to be able to have that kind of focus. And you might use a goal process that was introduced on a website called the Million Goals. You might take 10 goals in the present tense that you want to look at for the next year. So you're moving into a new church year. This is a perfect time. But for you personally, 10 goals. We all have some of the same goals, to organize the junk drawer or to go through our stuff in the basement or to lose weight or to be more healthy, whatever the 10 goals are. But then you circle a goal that will have the greatest impact on your life. I would probably choose the one that I could see the most progress the most quickly. You write that down and you set a deadline, and then you make a list of what needs to happen to reach that goal, and you do something toward it every day. I might have to come back and check on you for some of those things. And you'd have to ask me, how's that organizing your basement going? And it's still going and going. One of the goals that I've made this past month, and some of you have made the same goal over the last few years, is to find a balance between national news, international news, and your own personal creativity, productivity, and most importantly, your sanity. I don't want to be an ostrich with my head in the sand and avoid all reality. I want to know the state of affairs in Ukraine, in Israel with Hezbollah. I want to know those things, but I don't want to end up having to stop living in harmony and peace and able to give kindness. So I have to monitor how much of that I ingest. And all of you will find the proper quotient for that, for quality living. I've decided to throw an additional example of how choices of somebody's personal kaleidoscope of living might be less than harmonious. As Unitarian Universalists, it's said that the minister's sermons are supposed to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comforted. This is probably the afflicting the comforted part. We can apply this kaleidoscope approach to look at other situations in life. The shooter who rocked our worlds a few weeks ago as he shot at our former president. What type of kaleidoscope was this 20-year-old man using for his framework and philosophy for the actions that he took? I'm not going to mention his name or get into the pros and the cons and what the FBI didn't do and who the Secret Service didn't run to. I'm not getting into that. I'm looking at the kaleidoscope of that young man. What I did offer is that fisheye intentional lens that he had on his actions. He plotted, he planned, he proceeded to use drones, ladders, and an assault weapon borrowed from his father's collection. Easy enough since there are 28 million assault rifles in circulation in the U.S. Research of this young man who also showed that he studied the young man who killed 4 Oxford high school students last year. And this motive of having a notoriety of self, So how do you get attention? You do something this grand and this off the charts. So I bring this up to say, we're not just responsible for our own kaleidoscope. We're responsible for other people's kaleidoscopes and what they put in. And sometimes it's merely you saying some positive thing to them, and they can put that into their kaleidoscope. It's for you to have your antenna out, not just for neighbors' children, but any children that you see. If a child is running through coffee hour or running through a restaurant, and you know that they're going to get hurt because somebody's carrying something heavy or hot, it's the human family. You get to say something gently, oh, can I help you find your mom and dad? Something like that. You don't have to start an altercation. But what I'm saying is it goes from the I, my little kaleidoscope, to the we, the bigger kaleidoscope. So all of us have a big responsibility with these kaleidoscopes. Maybe it'll get as big as the Jack Webb telescope, and we can include the whole universe and beyond. How can you adjust your kaleidoscope? When will you adjust your kaleidoscope? The next few months are going to offer opportunities for dialogue and connection and discord and conflict. It's going to be up to you as how you respond to those around you with gentleness and respect. One of the things that I'm sure that you all have practiced in the past is longer and longer meditations, but I guess I relate this to my dad originally. He was the Italian one. And if I would be reading, he'd say, "What are you doing? You're not doing anything." So you can imagine how he reacted when he would see me sitting there silently meditating. What are you doing? You're not producing anything. Yet we are. We're producing something, though, that cannot be seen. We're producing a place in ourselves that we can call on and relate to. So we do just what I've mentioned now 3 times. Respond with mindfulness rather than react with who knows what will come out of us unmeasured. I look forward to hearing from some of you about your kaleidoscopes. If you give me a personal email, I'm going to send you a little clip of this song that Nora Jones sings. And somebody just sent it to me last night. But it's so beautiful because it puts in my kaleidoscope this understanding of my friends. I'm getting goosebumps, that vote differently than I do. This song encapsulates why all of us need to vote whatever our hearts and our values lead us to. And this is a beautiful song. So I'll leave a sheet back there by the great tech people. And if you want me to email you the song, I have a lot of good friends that have other opinions. Can you imagine? They even eat meat. I don't understand it, but I love them anyway. But this song relates to the values of why they eat meat or why they don't. And so all of those things, I hope that you can be compassionate to others, and you can add or delete to your kaleidoscope, and you can be the people that we want to be as Unitarian Universalists, following 7 principles or Article 2, whichever one you can remember, as we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of each person, even those people that think differently. So be it.